some interesting topic tonight, this afternoon. So as what Mr. Jonathan has said, we are in the middle of the pandemic. This is a situation that we have never expected that will ever happen in our lifetime. In fact, the last pandemic of this magnitude that happened was 100 years ago during the Spanish flu. I think it's around 1920, if I'm not mistaken. So if you have read about the last pandemic, the Spanish flu, you would have known that what followed the pandemic was a steep economic downturn. So that gives us an indication right now of what's going to happen at the moment when the pandemic is happening and right after the pandemic. So as overseas Filipinos, we are affected by what's happening right now, not only because of the health risks of the pandemic, but also because of the economic impact to all of us, myself included. Okay, so during this situation, what are we going to do, right, in cases like this? So this afternoon, I will discuss to you not only about tips on how to manage your finances, but let's go a little bit deeper. What we will do is we will look into where is this coming from? Why is your finances the way it is? What were your decisions when you were before the pandemic that led you to the situation like this? Again, this includes myself. Okay, so let me just open my slides here. There you go. So we are in the middle of the pandemic, and what we wanted to look in right now is to see how effective we can manage our finances as expatriates, as Filipino expats during the economic downturn, which we are in at the moment. And we can expect to happen maybe months or even years after the pandemic. Because we all know that COVID-19 is here to stay. We might develop medicines for this, we might develop vaccine for COVID, but COVID is here to stay. That's why this event is called the new normal, because what we're experiencing right now will be with us until for many, many years. Okay, so how are we going to deal with this? Right, we know now that the new normal is for us to have maintaining our hygiene, making sure that we are having social distance, cleaning our hands every time. But more than that, we also need to see how the impact of this pandemic is in our finances. Okay, let me begin. So I think I'll start with us going into what really is happening right now. You know, as what Mr. Jonathan has mentioned, I have been also working closely with the community leaders. We are looking into what's happening right now with our kababayans here in the UAE, the Filipinos here, especially in Dubai, and we have seen the impact of this pandemic to our kababayans. Thousands have lost their jobs. More than that, multiple thousands actually have already experienced pay cuts, no work, no pay, redundancies. And even before the March pandemic started, they have already been cut off from their work. So what we are experiencing and what we are seeing right now is a magnitude of Filipinos experiencing economic downturn by losing their jobs, eating up into their emergency funds, and even their spending habits and all of their savings has been slowly being used up because of what's happening right now. I have gathered some information here that was reported in the news, and some of them has been featured by our good friend Jojo Das. As you can see, there's a news, this is as of third week of June, I think the last week of June, we have seen around 88,000 Filipinos has been asking for the one-time off funds relief from our labor office. Imagine that, 88,000 Filipinos have applied for this. That means they are those who have lost their jobs, who have already experienced the pay cuts, who have already experienced the work no pay and drastically reduced salaries since that time. And the sad thing is that I was advised by our labor attaché that out of the 88,000 Filipinos, only 17,000 in Dubai will be allowed to receive this amount. So imagine if you do the math, around 60,000 or so will be denied this only one-time cash relief. Imagine that. And we all know, for those who have experienced this, or for those who have known this, we know that at one-time cash relief is around 10,000 pesos. That's equivalent to roughly around 720 or 730 dirhams. And we all know how much that is, right? That's equivalent to your 1 month rent, maybe, or a few weeks worth of food. So this is where we are right now. This is the situation that we are in. And I know that most of us have been affected by this. So what are we going to do, right? So if you're one of those affected, or you are in this situation right now, you have seen what's going on around you, what will we do? Okay. So as I've said, now more than ever, we need to have a reset. What does that mean? Nasa bahay tayo ngayon, di ba? All of us, most of us are working from home. Maybe some of us already came back to work. But for the last 3 or 4 months, most of us have been working at home. Maybe without work anymore. The thing is that we should use that time for us to actually have a reset. The pandemic, on the silver lining, it allowed us to have a reset, to rethink of where we are. What have we done? Why have we reached this situation? And what's the impact of this pandemic in our finances, and why we are in this situation right now in terms of finances. So we should use this time that we are at our house to think of all of these things. Okay, so it is a time for us more than ever to reset. Okay, so we are now in this situation, and what we wanted to do is to rediscover the effective management of our finances. Okay, so what we are going to do right now is to see, okay, I am in this situation. I may have lost my job. I might have experienced a pay cut. I might have experienced a no work, no pay situation. But I am here right now. So I will use this situation, I will use this time, I will use this moment to actually rethink and rediscover, okay, what can I do going forward? Should I have a plan? That if everything goes well or everything goes downward, what will I do? Right? Okay, so what I have done here is to give you, and for those who have heard me before, I'm very particular about acronyms. So I have this one right now. I call it MONEY. It's MONEY. So these are the things that we will discuss this afternoon and see one by one, not only for us to understand what we need to do, the tips on how to handle finances, but more so, I wanted us to look into our spending habits. The last few months, the last years, how many years that you have been here in the UAE, what were your spending habits that led you to this situation right now? We wanted to look into that. Is that something that a mistake from your side or from my side? Or is it something that had been influenced by us, by our environment, by our traditions as Filipinos? So we will look into that, because once we understand all of these things, then we'll be able to come up with a solution and to rethink and re-energize these habits so that we can have a good plan once we recover in the economy. Okay, let's go. So remember, MONEY. Okay, let's start with M. By M, I mean you have to master the basic of financial planning. Okay, now I understand what you mean. And I understand that you guys have heard this several times already, right? Maybe your insurance agent have given you this talk. Maybe a real estate agent has already given you this talk. Or worse, even a scammer may have given you a talk about financial planning. But what is financial planning? If you haven't really put that in your heart before, now is the time for you to truly understand what's the significance of managing your finances and how does that impact you, especially right now that we are in the middle of the pandemic. Okay. So, see, this is my personal mentor and the coach in the Philippines. He's Mr. Randall Chongson. He's a well-respected and well-loved finance guru in the Philippines, and he's visited several times here in Dubai to conduct seminars about personal finance. And we've been following these steps all throughout. And we've been teaching Filipinos here in the UAE on these steps on how they should manage their finances. So I will just go through very quickly because I'm sure you have heard about this before, but I want to give you a fresh perspective of how should you look at their personal finance. Okay. So what he's saying here is that you need to have 5 steps. Number 1, you need to improve your cash flow. Number 2, you need to get out of debt. Number 3 is that you need to establish an emergency fund. Number 4, you need to have life insurance before you hit number 5, which is actually you starting investing and allowing money to work for you. Now let's go a little bit on this, a little bit deeper on all of these 5 steps. So improving your cash flow. By that, it doesn't necessarily mean that you will start investing right away to improve your cash flow, to have a lot of income streams coming in. Remember, your work is your number 1 cash flow. That's the number 1 source of your cash flow. So make sure that you're doing good in your work. The problem with us sometimes is that we are so busy having all of our other income, our passive income, we call them, other income streams. We spend so much time that we tend to neglect our job, our day job, right? We should make sure that our day job is still our main priority. Why? Because that's a steady flow of our income, especially for us here OFWs in the UAE. Without your job, you cannot stay in the UAE, isn't it? So make sure that you are really good in your job, stay focused on it, give a lot of time, and make sure that you are really excellent in your day job so that when times of company reduction, company reorganization, they will see you as a valued employee of the company. That way, you will not experience what some might have experienced about pay cuts, about job loss. Because at the end of the day, they will choose to let go of those companies who are not really supporting the vision of the company. But if you are an efficient and effective employee, then they will keep you in the company. Okay, so I know that you wanted to focus on your passive income and all your other income streams, but don't forget about your day job. Okay, next, getting out of debt. Now, I don't want to emphasize about this, but because we are all living in Dubai, and Dubai is the capital, the shopping capital of the Middle East. So I understand that once in a while you find yourself in the mall. But please understand that whatever your decisions were months ago or years ago about how you spend your money, is you are experiencing the impact of that right now. So please, think clearly before you even incur any debt going forward. Because whatever you have incurred, that will be an obligation that you need to follow through for the next few more months. That will impact your cash flow. Okay, so if not required, please stay out of debt, especially in times like this. Next is setting up your emergency fund. Now we know what emergency fund is. It's that amount of cash that is equal to 3 to 6 months of your monthly expenses that you put aside so that you can use these funds whenever you are in an emergency situation. We are in the emergency situation right now, isn't it? We are in the middle of the pandemic. So most of us, those who lost their jobs, those who experienced pay cuts, you should be able to use your emergency fund right now to keep you afloat for the next few months. Now, 2 things I need you guys to understand why you're doing this. Number 1 is, as OFWs, we are also, most of us are responsible for the expenses of our families back home. So please include the expenses of your family back home in your emergency fund. Number 2, we always say before that emergency fund should be equal to 3 to 6 months of your monthly expenses. But what we have seen right now with this pandemic is that it might not be enough. Okay, so what we are advocating at the moment is that if you have established your 3 to 6 months, that's well and good. But if you have a spare cash, start piling up and making sure that you reach at almost a year worth of expenses saved as an emergency fund. That way, even for the next 1 year, you are ensured that you have covered the expenses of yourself, your family, and even your family back home in the Philippines. Now, life insurance. You've heard about all of this. But most of you think that it's expensive to have life insurance because, you know why? Because you think about the VUL. The VUL is a part of an insurance that has an investment component into it. That's a little bit expensive. But if you cannot afford to have a VUL, then go for term insurance. Term insurance is also very low in value, low in monthly amortization that you can surely afford. Once you have this, the important thing about insurance is it will cover you once eventualities happen. It will allow you and your family, whoever will be left behind, to have that cash caution whenever an eventuality happens or an untimely demise. Okay, so it's important for all of us to have the life insurance. And of course, if you've done all of this for, it's time for you to allow cash or your money to work for you. That's where you go into investing. And remember, two things in investing: only invest on things that you understand. And number two, do not put all of your eggs in one basket. That means you make sure that you diversify your investments, but make sure that you understand it before you invest into something. Okay? So these 5 things, I know you've already heard about this, but please make sure that you truly understand this, its implications, its significance in your future decisions, and that it will help you, as it has helped me for many years. Okay? Next. So we are done with M. Let's proceed with O. Okay? O. What is O? That is owning up to our past financial decisions. That's, I have said before, what you have been doing with your finances for the last years or for the last months have led you to where you are right now. Whether you've been extravagant in your finances, you have spent all of your savings, or you have been on the other side, naging matipid ka, and then you have saved your money. Whatever it was that you have done months or years ago, you are already benefiting from that right now, whether on the good side or on the bad side. Diba? So, ngayon natin na-realize na, ay, yung mga ginawa ko pala dati, lahat ng mga decisions ko before, I chose to spend most of my salaries, or I chose to keep it and save it, nakikita ko na yung impact niya ngayon. Okay, then as I told you guys, I'm also speaking on behalf of myself on this one, because we have all experienced this. Now, what does that mean if we say that we are owning up to our past financial decisions? Okay. Alam ko mga Pilipino kasi mahilig tayo sa religion, di ba? All of us have our own opinion of who we should believe or who we should not believe, right? And we are very strong on that as Filipinos. Now, I'll tell you some of these religious beliefs that I think you guys can relate. Okay? Number 1. Have you heard of this? Bahala na si Batman religion? Or are you part of this religion? These are actually Filipinos or whoever who has the lack of financial goals. Ibig sabihin, okay, bahala na bukas, basta importante mag-enjoy ko ngayon. Tomorrow I'll worry about that. Let tomorrow worry about tomorrow. Bahala na si Batman about tomorrow. Right? But I will enjoy my life now. I will enjoy my salary now. I will enjoy my money now. That's what I call bahala na si Batman religion. Now ask yourself, are you part of this religion? Have you been converted? Next. Okay. There. The Church of YOLO. What is this? Now, sa mga millennials natin nakikinig dyan, you know what YOLO is, right? You only live once. Well, true enough, actually. I agree. We are here on the earth to enjoy, actually. Yes. But we need to enjoy responsibly. Ang nangyayari kasi most of the time is, as makaramihan is, walang savings. Pagdating ng sweldo, lustay agad, ubos agad. Right? Hindi pa ako minsan, sobra pa yung gastos sa sweldo. Because they're trying to finance a YOLO lifestyle. The sad thing is that I have seen other kababayans who are doing this. They're trying to finance a lifestyle that they could not afford just to show up in their social media accounts of how lavish their lifestyle is, how jologs they are at the moment, on all of these things. That's the Church of YOLO. Now my question to you, kababayan, is, are you a member of this church? Okay. So that's what I call the rich now, poor later mentality. Marami pa yan. Tingnan natin isa-isa, ha? Okay. Now the sandwich generation denomination is something else. This is not necessarily bad. Well, this is ingrained in our tradition, in our culture as Filipinos. Diba? So as Filipinos, as OFWs, halimbawa, especially pag may family ka na, of course, you are responsible for your family, right? You're responsible to take care of your kids, of your spouses, and all that. But as Filipinos, we have this unwritten law that we also have to take care of our parents. That's ingrained in our culture, and there's nothing wrong with that. Subukan mo lang na wag mong tulungan yung parents mo. Di ba ikaw ang pinakamasamang anak? Well, that's true because everybody expects us to do this. And as I've said in my previous talks, there's nothing we can do about this. This is already in our culture. So our parents, we really have to take care of them. And I encourage all of you to take care of your parents. Now, what can we do then for us who've already known about financial planning, who understood the implications of the sandwich generation? What can we do? The only thing that we can do right now is stop this cycle in our generation. How do you do that? Yeah, how do you do that? How do you stop the cycle? How do you cut the cycle? For us to be financially free, for us to make sure that we take care of ourselves, we save enough, we have invested enough, so that when our generation grows old, we will not be dependent on our kids. Diba? Ang galing nun, diba? Na yung anak mo, when they grow up, they don't have to think about you. They don't have to worry about you. They only have to worry about their kids. So you've really relieved them of so much pressure of supporting you because you yourself has already enough finances, has already enough money to support your old age. That's what I'm saying. We now, because we already are aware and we understand the situation, the financial planning aspect of our lives, then we stop this and cut off this cycle in our generation. That's the importance of you having enough financial acumen so that you can prepare your future, that after retirement, you will not be dependent on your kids. Di ba ang sarap ng feeling na yung anak mo gusto sa'yo kasi hindi ayaw niya sa'yo kasi wala kang pera, napabigat ka sa kanya, right? But you wanted your kids to really love you because they know that they don't have really to take care of you because you can take care of yourself. And maybe you can even take care of them or your apos. Then you can enjoy your old age. So that should be our priority right now. Not only are we saving for our current situation, but we're also saving for our retirement so that we don't have to be dependent on our kids in the future. Okay, so sandwich generation denomination. Tingnan natin, nasaan ka na dyan? Bahala na si Batman religion? Are you a member of the Church of YOLO? Or are you a member of the sandwich generation denomination? Sige, isip-isip muna. Next. There you go. Are you familiar with the get-rich-quick scheme doctrine? Sige nga. Sino kaya sa atin dito nakaranas ng ma-scam? You know that scammers target OFWs. Why? Because OFWs, they have the impression that the OFWs are having the money. That's why they think that we are targets and sitting ducks for scam. And true enough, actually, maraming OFW ang na-scam. Because many of us have this mentality that if we can get into something that could make us get rich very quickly, then let's get into that. Marami tayong gusto ganyan. Walang gusto magtrabaho. Walang gustong medyo long term. Gustong mabilisan. Gusto next week kita agad. Doble agad yung ROI. That's where we get into trouble. Because we tend to forget about whatever is happening. We just want to make sure that we get rich very quickly. There's no such thing, mga kabayan. Okay? Especially if somebody tells you that they have an investment or a business opportunity for you without risks, that's clearly a scam. Okay? So remember that. Again, get rich quick scheme doctrine. And then lastly, we have the lack of the financial literacy philosophy. Now, this one is, this is also something that has happened many years here and is happening right now. Kasi yung financial literacy right now is, some people are using financial literacy as a introduction when they sell. There's nothing wrong with that. But the thing is that it's giving the Finlit advocacy a bad rap. Diba? Kasi, mag-Finlit na naman yan, bibentan lang ako ng glutathione yan eh. Diba? Or magpi-finlet lang yan kasi ang ending, bibintahan ako ng real estate o ng condo. That may be true, right? But we need to make sure both sides, yung nagfi-finlet or yung agent, you need to be responsible to give the full picture of the financial literacy. And sa ikaw naman na kabayan na nakikinig, di ba, you also do your homework. Di ba? You also need to understand, right? Huwag nating isisi doon sa agent na nag-finlet siya at nabentahan ka because you did not do your homework to understand the vehicle. Okay? So this lack of financial literacy is really hurting us because it's allowing us, it's resulting to us using our hard-earned cash for investing into something we don't understand that will end up into losses. Okay? So remember this, lack of financial literacy philosophy. Have you been a victim of this? Okay? So, yun ang sabi ni ni Chinkitan. Tipid now, ginhawa later. Hindi gastos now, ulubi later. That's what we call the law of delayed gratification. Ibig pong sabihin, tiis-tiis muna tayo ngayon. Let's be consistent with our financial goals. Let's make sure that we have enough savings in place so that two things. Number one, if emergency happens, we have the cash to use. And number two, we will be assured that our future is secured because we have prepared for it right now. Diba? So understand all of this and think, mga kabayan, saan sa mga religion, sa mga doctrines na yon ang pinaniwalaan mo before? If you have, that's okay. Lahat po tayo nagdaan dyan. The thing is that now you understand all of this, you make decisions. Okay? You make your own personal decision on what you will do going forward. And that's the purpose why we are here right now. Okay. Now looking into the financial impact of the pandemic, what we will do? We are in the situation right now, right? Nandito na tayo eh. So what are we going to do? Let me give you few quick steps or ideas that you can use. Now this is not inclusive, all-inclusive, but you can use this because I have applied this personally in my own life. Okay? Again, may acronym tayo. We call it EASY. E-A-S-Y. What is easy? Let's try. Number one, ensure that your regular or additional income is in place. Yun ang sinasabi ko kanina. If you still have a job, thank God for that. Because a lot of Filipinos lost their jobs. If you still have yours, make sure that you're the best in it. It is time for you to reevaluate how you handle your job right now and make sure that you're one of the most efficient employees in your company. Diba? Kaya nga sinabi ko kanina, if you are one of the best employees in your company, the company will always think twice before they let you go because they value your contribution into the company. Diba? Pero kung lagi ka namang wala sa office mo, lagi kang late, lagi kang absent, then why would they keep you? Right? That's number one. So ensure that you are really good in your job. Number two is that if you have an income stream, or if you have a passive income, make sure that that is consistent as well. Diba? So alagaan mo rin naman yung passive income mo because we don't know what our situation is in our regular job. If we don't have that, at least we have the passive income or additional income that can sustain us during this pandemic. Okay? So if you don't have an additional income right now, then it's time for you to think. Yung nga sinasabi ko kanina, reset. Think, what can you do? What can you do? You're only in your house right now, thinking, instead na magmukmuk po tayo sa bahay o manood ng Netflix 24/7, think of possible ways for you to earn income. Marami po yan. Kapag nagiging open ka sa mga possibilities to learn new skills and to learn other possible ways to generate income. Legal po ha, wag po tayong under the table. Okay? Next. Adjust your lifestyle. Now you are already affected by the pandemic and we don't know how long will this last. Right? We are in the situation right now where the Filipinos here cannot go home. Diba? Nagkaroon tayo ng lockdown. Many of us wanted to go home in the Philippines but we cannot because there's no commercial flights. So anong gagawin natin? Nandito tayo. Nakalock tayo dito sa UAE. Because you cannot have a lot of income coming in, you need to drastically reduce your lifestyle, the cost of your lifestyle. Ano pong ibig sabihin nun? Let's go back to basic. What this pandemic has taught us is that we need to go back into the basic. Di ba? Tinuturuan tayo maging malinis, maghugas ng kamay lagi, na nakalimutan na natin before. But because of the pandemic, every 20 minutes na naghugas ka ng kamay, di ba? That's what the pandemic is teaching us. That's the silver lining. We need to go back into a simplified form of lifestyle so that the cost of our lifestyle will also follow. It will be scaled down. Kung yung gastos mo every month dati, 20,000 dirhams, kasi ang dami mong pinupuntahan, ang dami mong lavish na lifestyle, you scale down, you cut off expenses that are not required so that you go into basic. Pagkain lang, renta lang, yung mga basic lang na requirements. Okay? So adjust your lifestyle. Next, study your emotions. You know, this what I've noticed and what I've seen around in our kababayans here and what I've observed is that nasa peak tayo ng emotions natin during the pandemic. Why? Because we are scared. We are worried, we are stressed, di ba? Baka mawala ka ng trabaho, baka magka-COVID ka. Anong nangyari sa Pilipinas? Yung mga anak mo. All of these things. So you need to recognize this kind of things happening within us. The emotional aspect, the emotional impact of COVID to us, we need to realize that because that has an implication of how we spend. Di ba? Nasi-stress ka. Anong ginawa mo? Nag-stress eating ka. Bumili ka ng something na hindi mo naman dapat binibili. Dapat yung pera na yung ginamit mo pambili ng bigas, binili mo ng cake kasi na-stress ka. You know what I'm saying? So we need to understand that there are emotional implications of what's happening around us, and we need to manage that as well. Okay? And next. And yes, to more learning. What does that mean? It means that we are staying in our house right now. We need to make use of it. Di ba? Nag-work from home ka for several months. Anong ginawa mo? Nanonood lang ng TV the whole time? Now is the time for you to really upskill what they're saying. Di ba? I-up mo yung mga skills mo. Learn new things. Be versatile. Learn a lot of things that you have no time to learn before. Now is your time to learn. Right? Because these new things that you might learn could be a possible source of income. Or this could be a skill that your office needs so that you can secure your job. Diba? Kasi marami kang skills na alam na mas naging valuable ka sa company mo compared to others na walang skills. Right? So use this time to learn new things. I always say this in many of my talks. There is no end to learning. We always need to learn. We always need to improve ourselves. Now is the time for us na marami tayong extra time because nasa bahay lang tayo. Now is the time for us to actually start learning and improving our skills. Okay? Next. Ayan. So we have the M, we have the O. Now we have the N. Ano to? Nature and nurture influences. Okay. Dito natin malalaman kasi that whatever decisions we have, the spending habits that we have as Filipinos or our overseas Filipinos, those are results of generations and generations of traditions of Filipinos that have been handed over to us from our parents, na-observe natin sa mga kamag-anak natin, sa parents natin, that we also unconsciously or subconsciously followed. Those are the nature and the nurture aspect or the behavioral aspect of our spending. Dapat po kasi nating malaman yan para maintindihan mo, bakit ka kailangan bumili ng sapatos wala ka na pera? Or bakit mo kailangan bumili ng branded na hindi mo naman kaya? So those are the things na kung minsan, hindi mo maintindihan sa sarili mo, why do you keep on doing those things? Na kung minsan na pinagsisihan mo, bakit mo ginawa yon? Because there are behavioral aspects in the spending habits that you have. And what they call the behavioral finance. Tingnan natin na yung mga specific dito. I've listed few, which I know that you guys can relate because I can relate into it. And we need to understand all of these things. Because once we understand them, then we can do something about them. Okay? There are many actually, but I have only listed few in the interest of our time. Number one, yun ang sinasabi natin, spending as a form of escape. Kung minsan kasi, yung sinabi ko kanina, no, you are stressed. Ang dami mong kinoconsider. Kung minsan, napapaspend ka ng pera mo just to make sure na, just to have that few moment of escape para maka-escape ka sa problema mo. Kaya pumunta ka ng Starbucks, nagkape ka muna doon, kumain ka muna ng ice cream kasi na-stress ka. Diba? So these are the things that we need to understand. Why are we doing these things? Okay, so I'll give you some of the traditions and culture that the Filipino has that had been embedded in us from generations and generations, handed down to us from our parents and from their parents' parents, na ginagamit natin at ginagawa pa rin natin hanggang ngayon. There's so many of this, but I'll give you a few. Number one, tinatawag kong the in grande theory. Napansin nyo ba na dapat kung OFW ka, dapat kung mapakasal ka in grande kasi OFW ka, di ba? Or if you have to have a party of your kids, dapat mas maganda yun, mas magara yun compared sa mga kababayan natin na sa Pilipinas lang. Kasi OFW ka eh, abroad ba naman si daddy? Right? So this is not only something that we demand from ourselves, this is also something that is expected from us, from people around us. Kasi nga, na-ingrade na yan sa ating society. Di ba? Kung marinig mo yung mga kababayan mo o yung mga kapitbahay mo na sasabi, naku, ano ba naman yung handa nun? Bakit konti lang yun? Eh, abroad pa naman. Akala ko abroad yan. So there is this sense of pressure for you to have an grande celebration because people are expecting that from you as an OFW. Tama? Next. One day millionaire. Ito naman, is nasa atin din to kung minsan. Now, all of us are guilty of this. Kung minsan kasi, nasa trabaho tayo, maraming stress, nasigawa ka pa ng boss mo, nagka-problema pa and all of these things. And then you tend to spend. And you tell yourself, I deserve this. Of all those months na grabe ang pinagdaanan ko sa work, the sleepless nights, the overtime, the weekend work, all of these things, the stress from my boss, the stress from my office mate, I deserve this. Kailangan ko ng 2 bag ng Louis Vuitton because I deserve it. Now, maybe you have not done it, but you have heard for sure somebody saying something like that. It's part of who we are. Nasa atin po yan. Kasi, na-equate natin na kapag we do something like this, we do something like an impulsive buying, it is us rewarding ourselves out of those months of hard work. Now, it could be good, it could be bad. We'll think about that. But it is something that we need to recognize. Okay? Next, balik tayo dito kay YOLO. Kasi si YOLO is very prevalent. And we can see this with people who choose to present somebody, a persona in their social media accounts other than themselves. Ano ibig sabihin nun? There are cases, and you can see this, I'm sure you guys have testified about this, that you have seen people doing this. Na social media account niya, grabe, di ba? Laging nasa hotel, laging nasa mall, laging bago yung gadget, laging bago yung sapatos. Nakapost lahat yan sa Instagram. Pero that's not the real him. Di ba? The real him is actually probably eating noodles because wala na siyang pera pambili ng pagkain. Right? And again, all of us has been guilty about this. We just need to recognize that this is something that we have the tendency to do so that we can do something about it. Okay? So please, ang YOLO lifestyle po na yan, that's something that is okay. I don't say it's bad, but it is something that needs to be managed. And especially the financial aspect, the financial consequences of maintaining a YOLO lifestyle, at the same time maintaining a persona in your social media account other than who you really are. Okay? Next. The pasalubong splurge. Now, this is something that all of us has been guilty as OFWs. Diba? Tayo yung mahilig sa pasalubong box. Tayo yung laging pag-uwi ng Pilipinas, grabe ang pasalubong, ang daming dala. Diba? Lahat ng savings mo na pinag-ipunan mo for the last 6 months, 2 araw pa lang pagdating mo sa Pilipinas, ubus na. Why? Because you have the one-day millionaire mentality, you have the in grande theory, you have the pasalubong splurge. Do you see what's the implication of all of these things to us? Now, all of us, whether we admit it or not, have in one way or the other experienced doing this or have heard people pressuring us into doing this. So we just need to understand all of this so that we can do something about it. Okay, so anong gagawin natin ngayon? If these are the things that, yes, okay, I recognize, ginagawa ko to, I have done something like this in the past, or I have been pressured to do something like this in the past, or I have experienced, I have seen people doing this, other overseas Filipinos doing this, then what can we do? Diba? So what I have recommended here is an approach I call SAVE. Let's understand what save is. Number one, okay, set up a long-term and a short-term money target, money goals. Okay, what does that mean? Simply, that's the basic of what we can do with our financial planning. Set up a goal. At the beginning of the year or even now, we're in the middle of the year. Nasa bahay ka lang naman. Sit down, free your mind, relax your mind, and set up a goal. Ano ba talaga yung gusto kong mangyari in the next 1 year? Ano ba talaga yung gusto kong mangyari in the next 5 years in terms of my finances? Gusto ko ba na after 5 years may bahay na ako? Gusto ko ba na after 5 years meron na akong negosyo sa Pilipinas? Right? You do this goal setting right now. Mamaya after tonight, after you've done and you've heard of this, take time tonight or in the next few days to create your money goals. Why? Kasi po, yung money goals mo, roadmap mo yan. That will be your plan. That will be your direction going forward. So that in the next 1 year, in the next 5 years, you have a goal to achieve. Ang implication po kasi niyan, number one is nagpo-focus ka dun sa goal mo. So, alam mo kung saan ka pupunta. Alam mo yung direction po puntahan mo. And number two, if you need to decide financial decisions in the future, you will be guided by the money goals that you have established, that you have set up. Diba? So, sasabihin mo sa sarili mo, ay, gusto kong bumili ng mamahaling bag, but I will not do it kasi kapag ginawa ko yan, masisira yung target ko. Diba? So, if you do that, then you get rid of those unnecessary expenses that you used to do because you know and you're aware that if you do that, it will impact the money goals that you have set up for yourself. Diba? So parang ang dating niya, you're protecting yourself from doing unnecessary financial decisions. Okay? Next. Avoid spending triggers. Spending triggers are those that allows you, kapag nakita mo siya, is kailangan mong gawin. Remember, we have the spending habits. Those are triggers. Example, mahilig ka palang bumili ng mahilig ka mag-shopping, hindi wag ka pumunta ng mall. Diba? Mahilig ka palang mag-shopping, bakit nasa mall ka? That's you actually putting yourself into a situation where your spending habits will be triggered again. And then you will end up spending something into something that you don't need. So what I'm trying to say here is, and for all of us are guilty of this, is that we need to avoid those triggers. First, we need to understand what our triggers are, and then we need to avoid them so that we avoid having to do some decisions that is not part of our plan. Remember, meron ka ng money goal, meron ka ng plano. Next, visualize and replace your bad habits. Now, I'm not going to tell you what your bad habits are. I know my bad habits, and I'm sure alam mo rin kung ano yung nasa sayo. What I wanted you to do is take some time to understand what are those. Ano ka ba? Bahala Batman church member ka ba? YOLO ka ba na denomination? Where are you? Are you part of the In Grande Theory? Are you part of the One Day Millionaires Club? Asan ka doon? You understand all of these things, and then once you understand them, then you can do something about them. Then you can slowly replace them. Yung basic ko na example is for people who wanted to shop. People who really like shopping and they cannot do anything about it. They call it shopping addiction. Try to learn stock market. Once you learn stock market, you can also shop. You can buy stocks. Diba? Kung minsan bargain pa yan, especially now because the market is down. When you buy stocks and you shop for stocks, nandun din yung high na yon. But you are buying something that will benefit you in the future. Diba? So it's a matter of you understanding what your triggers are and replacing them with something that will become beneficial for you in the future. Okay? So mamayang gabi tandaan mo yan. I'll give you some time later to think about these things. And lastly is E. Again, I cannot overemphasize this enough. Educate your mind. Whatever you feed into your mind, you will do. So if you feed all of this with negative things, with stress and with worry, it will be reflected into your action. But if you feed yourself with something new, skills that you need to learn, positive habits, avoiding all of these triggers, all of this positive information that you feed into your mind, eventually they will be manifested in your actions. Okay? So choose the things that you feed off your mind. Okay? Next, nandito na tayo sa E. Malapit na tayo. The next is educating our families back home. Now, we need to emphasize this kasi tayo mga OFWs and all of us are guilty of this. We have what they call the Messiah complex. Ano yun? Kasi ikaw yung OFW, feeling mo, responsibility mo lahat ng pamilya mo. Lahat ng kamag-anak mo, responsibility mo. Lahat ng kabarangay mo, responsibility mo. Because ikaw yung nakaka-ahon-ahon sa buhay. Kasi ikaw yung medyo malaki yung sweldo. Kasi nasa abroad ka. That's our messianic complex. We need to recognize this. And we need to understand and we need to educate our families back home na hindi po tayo ang lahat ng tao na dapat umako sa lahat ng problema ng buong barangay natin. Just because we are overseas Filipinos. Now, our families back home is our partner. May it be your spouse, your kids, or your parents. They are actually our partners. They are as important to learn financial planning as much as we are. Why? Tingnan mo, ikaw dito, naghihirap ka, nagsisave ka, nagpapadala ka dun sa Pilipinas, tapos sila doon, nilulustayin nila yung pera. Because they thought na next month meron na namang darating, di ba? Or the following month meron na namang darating. So they don't have that sense of responsibility to take care of the money that you are sending. Therefore, sira yung formula. Isang portion lang ang gumagana, yung kabila, merong leak. Right? But if you have to go down and sit down with your families and explain the situation, then both of you can work out a plan. You know, isama mo sila dun sa goal setting mo so that both of you can really be partners, real partners, into achieving that financial plan that you have established. Diba? When you talk to your wife, for example, if your wife is based in the Philippines, oh, mahal, eto papadala ko sa iyo but eto lang yung gastusin mo kasi etong sobra na to, i-save mo kasi mag-start tayo ng negosyo. In the next 5 years, we will plan to start a business. Para makauwi naman ako dyan, makapiling ko naman kayo in a shorter span of time. Hindi yung 20 years, 30 years na ako dito, hindi pa rin tayo nagkakasama. Right? So once we make all of this talk and communications, clear line of communications with our family, we set the expectations and we set up the goals so that both of the parties agreeing to these goals, mas mabilis ang attainment or achievement of this goal. Kasi you have to understand, our families love us. They really, really love us. And our parents, our kids, or our wives, they want us to be with them. Siyempre, nahihirapan din sila na nandito ka, nandun sila. So the quicker for you guys to be reunited for good, the better. Diba? So that could only happen if you have enough cash or enough savings or enough investment that could sustain you when you go back home. Hindi mo na kailangan mag-abroad. Right? So educating our families and talking to them, communicating to them this situation helps us speed up the process of us reintegrating back home in the Philippines because we know that they are our partners in terms of our financial goals. Okay? And next, ayan, reintegration. Tingnan mo. I'll show you guys these slides and see for yourself. Possible ba sa atin na mga OFWs na maging negosyante, maging milyonaryo sa Pilipinas? Sa inyo na, for those who are really still not convinced about this, look at this. See? Kasambahay. And there are thousands and thousands of stories similar as this one. What is he saying to us? It is possible. Kung nagawa nila, kaya din natin gawin. All we need to do is to make sure that we are aligned with our families and we practice all of these things that we have discussed so far. Para po, yung ating plano for the future is clear-cut siya. Meron kang direksyon, meron kang plan, meron kang goal. At kasama mo yung pamilya mo para mas mapabilis mo ma-achieve yung goal na yon. So if it is possible for OFWs to go back, be reintegrated back in the Philippines as entrepreneurs, yes, it is 1,000% possible. Okay? And lastly, the why. Yes to God as Lord of our finances. You know, this is a personal testimony for me. The moment I've been here for 15 years, and you know, our financial journey is not also straightforward. Pero the moment we gave up the control over our finances and we give it back to God and allowed Him to be the Lord of our finances, and we surrendered our decisions to Him, allowing Him to guide us, to give us the wisdom of every decisions that we make financially, din nakita namin yung improvement. And that's what I wanted you guys to understand. I also wanted you to experience these things. Kasi personal experience ko po ito. Once you trust God, you entrust your finances to Him, you make Him the Lord of your life and the Lord of your finances, I can assure you, your situation will turn around. Because si Lord hindi yan umuutang. Pag binigay mo sa Kanya, ibabalik niya yan sa'yo 1,000 folds, 10,000 folds. And that is based on my experience. So hopefully po, in this afternoon, I will end up with this thinking from you guys. That everything you do, whatever you have right now, wherever you are right now, honor the Lord with that. Let Him be the Lord of your life. Let Him be the Lord of your finances. Let Him be the guide of all the decisions that you have. Show to Him where you are right now, the situations that you are right now. Tell Him. Entrust it to Him. And trust that He will do something. He will arrange events. He will arrange circumstances favorable to you and to make you see how wonderful and how almighty He is. Yan. Maraming salamat po for the listening. And thank you po. I hope na meron kayo natutunan. Thank you so much. Ayan.
Wow. Really. I'm really thankful, no, Sir Ben. I'm amazed. Okay, it was really, you rock it. You rock. I receiving, while you are doing your presentation, I'm receiving lots of messages, and you know what they are saying? You delivered really an amazing presentation. Sobrang galing ng speaker. This is coming, really. Kahit ako, hindi ako nag-stop na pakinggan. No, I'm really thankful, and may mga questions tayo. No, kahit na, you know, there is only like, we need to give some space for the next speaker, but I really need to ask this question. So, siguro dalawa lang. So, I'm so sorry for those, sorry po talaga, we cannot answer all the questions, no?
And they can message po. Sir, they can message me on Facebook if they have some questions.
If you want. And then, thank you so much. We have 400 people actually watching from different channels. I'm receiving feedback from my team. Thank you, and I'm really, really, you are really the right speaker to open the second day. Okay, so thank you so much. Okay, so first, okay, I just picked two. One is basic, and the other is a little bit of advanced.
Okay.
So first is, sir, in terms of dun sa steps, no, from our mentor, Sir Randall Johnson, what if you are in debt and then you run out of emergency funds during this pandemic? Which one to prioritize first? Do we need to pay the debts, or do we need to build the emergency funds? I think many OFWs watching around the world will be able to understand this part. So that is the first question.
Okay. Okay. So, depende po yan sa available ninyo na funds. Right? Kasi po, ang emergency fund natin, both of them are equally important. But it depends sa available ninyo na free cash na tinatawag natin. Kung medyo malaki-laki po yung free cash ninyo na available, you can do both actually. I would recommend you do both. Ibig sabihin, make sure na meron kang emergency fund because we are in the middle of the emergency. So talagang nagpre-precede yung importance nun, di ba? At the same time, kasi kapag meron kang loan, every debt that you have has an interest that is attached to it. Di ba? So you really also wanted to make sure na nag-clear up yun over time. So halimbawa, kung meron kang kung mas malaki yung funds mo na available, na free cash mo na available, you do both. Maybe a little bit more priority on the emergency fund because importante yan talaga. And then, but spend a little bit more time as well. Allocate a little portion of your free cash sa yung ano din, sa pag-clear ng loan mo. Kasi over time, in the next few months na ginagawa mo yan, makikita mo yung benefit. Kasi once na tapos mo yung ano mo, yung loan mo, mas malaki yung free cash mo na magkakaroon ka ng mas malaking free cash. But again, prioritize emergency fund.
Yeah.
Kasi nasa emergency situation tayo ngayon.
Okay, nice. Okay, sir. So punta naman tayo dun sa endang spectrum, no? From Ma'am Lisa, how much of retirement fund and should we put up before we retire? So I think she's asking how you money on the retirement or what is your measurement?
Wow. Ma'am, isang ano po yan, isang araw po yan na schedule sa RFP natin, ano? So I cannot really give you a short version of that, but I'll try. So, ganito po, imagine yourself retiring today. Okay? Imagine yourself retiring today with today's cost of living, today yung mga expenses mo today. How much is your monthly requirement for today? Halimbawa, uwi ka ng Pilipinas ngayon, mag-retire ka. Magkano yung kailangan mo every month? Considering na lahat na mga expenses mo, future expenses, lahat. Considering na. Sabihin natin na 200,000 pesos, let's just say. 200,000 pesos. And then you factor in how many years pa magre-retire ka. Yung lifespan mo from now until kukunin tayo ni Lord, ilang years yun. So, yung 200,000 po na yun, kailangan meron ka na amount na yun, in a percentage na kinikita mo sa pera mo, na makakam up na amount na yun para ma-sustain mo siya. Ibig sabihin, halimbawa, 200,000 tapos kinikita yun ng 8%, for example. So, 200,000 divided by 8%, magkano yan? Yan yung kailangan mong retirement fund. Very quickly, nandito yung calculator ko. Sorry. Titingnan natin. Okay? You need times magkano? So 2.5 million na kailangan mo na for that particular year times the number of years na kailangan mo siya. So medyo mahaba-haba po yan. I cannot give you the amount, no? Baka sabihin nila mali yung computation ko, no? What I can do probably to you, ma'am, is contact me directly. We can spend some time kasi ayoko magbigay ng amount na hindi tama. So contact me directly. I'll give you a simple computation about this. But that is the logic behind. That you need to see what you're spending at this moment, magkano kailangan mo, and then factor in inflation, factor in the number of years of your lifespan. Yun po lalabas yung amount, na malaking amount, yun yung kailangan mo to sustain you over retirement. Yan pong simple question, simple answer, but para maintindihan mo po yan, contact me and we can discuss further.
Okay, sir. Okay, follow-up question lang. Okay, since na-discuss na rin yung retirement. So, usually, I think there are so many attendees na from UAE. And usually, let's face it, we don't have any pension fund here, right? So at the end of the day, it's a discipline and you really need to do your own retirement fund. So what advice you can give for those that are starting to prepare for their retirement? So what maybe investment vehicles or where the pension fund should we put where? Okay, so kasi usually that is the issue, especially in the Middle East.
Right. That's a very good question, Sir John. So the retirement fund, the establishment of a retirement fund depends sa sitwasyon mo ngayon. If you are, so the rule of thumb is, if you are younger, let's say nasa early 20s ka, early 30s ka, you tend to be more aggressive in terms of investment. Pero kapag nasa medyo late ka na, nasa late 40s ka na, mga ganun, mga retirable age ka na, then you tend to be conservative in terms of your investment. Kasi po, ang gagawin natin dyan, hindi ka pwedeng i-save mo lang na pera lang sa bangko yon. Kasi, I mean, what is the bank giving us interest this time, di ba? Peanuts, di ba? So you need to really invest the money that you have saving in. But where are you going to invest the money? Yun nga, bumalik tayo doon na kapag medyo younger ka pa, then you have that risk factor. Pwede ka maging more aggressive in terms of investment. So pwede kang pumasok sa mga stock market, di ba? Para mas mataas yung build ka ng wealth. Pero kapag medyo malapit ka sa retirable age mo, your purpose is to protect your wealth. Ibig sabihin, you tend to invest your retirement money into investment vehicles that tends to be more conservative para hindi siya mawala. Ibig sabihin, punta ka ng mga bonds, punta ka ng mga high yield na deposit, punta ka ng MP2, halimbawa ng Pag-ibig, that's really good. Yung mga ganun po, na alam natin na na safer siya. Remember, all investment have risk, walang investment na walang risk. pero mas safer siya compared sa mga more aggressive natin na mga investment portfolio like stock market, like forex, mga ganun po. So I would recommend that depende sa age level mo kung isang status ka na ngayon. If you are a little bit older, go for more conservative investment vehicles. If you are a little bit younger, diversify of course, but go into more aggressive ones para kasi may time ka pa to recover kapag na-loss mo yung pera, di ba? But of course, don't get into any investment that you don't understand. Please, marami na po kami na-advise ng mga kababayan natin who went into an investment vehicle that they don't understand, which ended up losing their money because they don't understand kung ano yung pinasukan nila or na-scam sila, worst case scenario. So please, if you don't understand it, don't get into it. Okay? Learn as much as you can, but if you don't understand, don't get into it. Yan po.
Thank you, sir. No? So another question pa, no? So i-maximize ko na. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So, sir, meron kasing, we know na there are so many OFWs that are going to be repatriated. And let's face it, the government support or funds given is very limited. Okay, so when an OFW goes back to the Philippines, what is the first step to start? No, because it's very hard. Okay, I'm coming back home and I don't have any emergency funds. I'm repatriated because I'm terminated in the job. So, what is your main advice? Okay, I'll really point on that because I think many watch your session. So one of them or two of them, they want to pick something from you. See, I will also disclose, no? There is one OFW in Saudi Arabia, and she messaged me and she said, I really want to go back home. I don't have any money, and I'm just waiting to be repatriated. So, what is your main advice to this type of OFWs that are coming back home that they don't know what to do?
Yes. Yung nga, sa sinabi ko kanina, sir, so sa ano ko no, sa talk ko is that nandito na tayo sa sitwasyon na to eh. So there's no point sisihin pa natin sarili natin because of the bad decisions we did before. Wala na 'yon, let's move past that. We are already in this situation. Sa halimbawa, isa ka sa mga uwi sa Pilipinas. Then you first of all, relax. Nasa Pilipinas ka na, nasa family na ikaw, just make sure that you are safe, your family is safe, just relax a little bit. And then start to reset your mind. Regroup, ibig sabihin. Ano ang skills meron ka? That's number one. Ano ang resources na meron ka? Maybe wala ka ng pera kasi naubos yung pera mo dito sa UAE or wherever you came from. Pero may mga resources ka, ibig sabihin may mga skills ka na pwede mong gamitin. Di ba? Pwede ka mag-start ng negosyo. Pwede ka mag-start ng mag-collaborate with somebody to start something new. Even farmers. I mean, Philippines is an agricultural country. We can always go back into farming, di ba? Like what we are doing. Pero what I'm trying to say is that you have to use only what you have. Ibig sabihin, kung yan yung skills mo, try to find out a way for you to earn money out of that skills. Because remember, mga kabayan, pag uwi mo sa Pilipinas, wala din pong trabaho naghihintay sa atin doon. Kasi maraming Pilipino din pong nawalan ng trabaho. So don't expect na pagdating mo doon, may trabaho kasi abroad ka galing. Not necessarily po. If you find one, well and good, but don't expect too much because milyon din pong Pilipino ang nawalan ng trabaho. That's what I'm trying to say is that utilize what you have, what resources you have. If you have a skill that you can use that. Kung magaling ka magluto, by all means, magtinda ka ng pagkain. If you are good in magtahi ng damit, do that. Di ba nakikita natin yan sa mga YouTube, sa mga Facebook na stewardess sila dati ngayon, nagbebenta na sila ng pagkain. There's no shame in that. Marangal na trabaho yun, di ba? As long as ginagawa mo na mabuti. So, whatever you have right now, that's really something that you can start on because you cannot expect too much in terms of the workforce. Obviously, I don't expect na maraming pera kang dalhin pa uwi kasi nga nagamit natin dito and may pandemic din dito. So, start small and start where you can use your resources that you have. Yun po.
Wow, thank you so much, sir. So, I'll continue pa, okay? 7 or 8 minutes left, but I will continue because you're really doing great, no? Okay, so another question is, here comes a father, no? Tatay siya and he's going back home. Okay,
Yeah.
Wife is a full-time wife and meron silang 2 kids. Okay, so the father is of course lost job and he only stayed abroad for 2 years.
Okay.
Okay, now how would you explain to your kid and to your wife? And then the wife is saying, you should stay abroad because here in the Philippines as well, because of COVID-19, we cannot survive. We will not survive if you will just stay here and all of us will be here. But see, the father is having a hard time to really, open the eyes of his family to, I don't have anything here as well. How would you
Yes.
explain that? I think that's a good question.
That's really a good question, ano? And it's something that I think that yung last slide ko na sinasabi kanina, no, that the E portion where we need to educate our families. So if you haven't done so before, you spend so much time, spend time now to talk to your families now. Para hindi ka na dumating sa puntong ito na sinasabi mo na yan na pino-force ka ng wife mo na magstay if there is even a bleak chances of you having work here in abroad. So talk to your families as early as now. Pero kapag nandun ka na sa sitwasyon na yan, you really need to sit down with your wife. Your wife loves you. Your wife is your partner. Diba? Through thick and thin yan, diba? So, sit down with your wife and tell her what exactly is happening here right now. Kapag nagstay ako dito, for example, and I don't have a job, and it's a limited chance for me to have a job in the next few months, in the next 1 year, gagastos na ako dito. Isn't that? So, kung ano man yung pera ko nandito ngayon, maubos at maubos lang yan. Kasi, dito, I have to pay rent. I have to eat. Diba? May mga gastusin dito. Kapag nagstay ako dito without a chance of getting a job, might as well go home and use whatever money we have left. Mag-start into something na yung sinasabi natin na magluto, manahe, or whatever na pwede natin gawin together as husband and wife. Diba? Kasi, kung minsan, and I have seen kababayans do this as well, medyo sugar-coated kasi yung approach natin sa family natin sa Philippines. Kapag tumatawag yung mga parents natin, yung mga asawa natin, sabi natin, okay lang, wala, no, don't worry about me, okay na ako dito, don't worry. There's a reason for that because we really don't want them to worry. That's understandable as families or as parents or as kids, ganyan. Pero at the same time, you really also need to let them understand kung ano talaga yung sitwasyon dito. In a way na hindi sila mag-worry, pero alam nila dapat ano nangyayari sa'yo. In that case, kapag nag-stay siya dito, kung meron pa siyang 3,000 dirhams, mauubos at maubos lang yan, di ba? Kasi wala siyang pukunan ng pera, wala nang other income. Kung umuwi siya doon, 3,000 dirhams is around what? Maybe 40,000 pesos. That could be something that they could start anything doon sa kanila. Di ba? Instead na gamitin ko lang yan para sa pagkain ko dito, para sa renta ko dito, para sa mga gastusin ko dito, uwi na lang ako, mag-start tayo ng konting negosyo. Gamitin natin yung titirang pera natin. And then, it doesn't mean naman na final na yan eh. When the economy starts to recover again, you can always come back. Di ba yan ang sinasabi namin sa mga kababayan natin through the consulate? Hindi final na umuwi ka ng Pilipinas. Pwede ka namang bumalik. Punta ka ng Pilipinas, relax ka muna doon para maliit yung gastos ninyo kasi magkasama kayong mga pamilya. Once the economy recovers, maybe sometime next year or a year after that, then you come back because you already have the experience of the UAE, already have the Gulf experience. You will always be marketable. So kapag bumalik ka na dito, you will always find job kapag okay na yung economy. Pero now, it's not the time to stay here and hope na mayroon ka makukuha kasi very glim po yung chances na magkaroon tayo ng ganyan. Yan po.
Thank you, Sir Ben. Talagang I think you really hit the questions. No? So before we close, no? Okay, last na lang. Okay, last in your own point of view na lang siguro. Okay, what is the right money mindset? Okay, punta na lang tayo dun sa, okay, para medyo maganda yung ending natin. Kasi ang attack ng mga questions is emotional eh, no? So, para i-close natin ng maganda, I want you to give, ano ba yung tamang money beliefs or money mindset, no? Especially, you also mentioned that in the past, you also make mistakes. You made mistakes during your personal finance journey. So, para hindi naman, para maganda yung ending question, no? So give us some money tips or money mindset or money beliefs.
Yes. Yes, as what I've said earlier, lahat po tayo dumaan dyan. So hindi po ako sinasabi na because ako nagsasalita dito is perfecto po ako. No. Actually, that's the reason why I can tell you all of this with all honesty because I've experienced all of them. So lahat po tayo dumaan dyan, lahat tayo dumadaan sa ganyan. Now, what I can tell you is probably this is the simplest way I can put it is educate yourself financially. Yung financial planning po na medyo close tayo dati kasi akala natin binibentahan lang tayo, akala natin yun po, masascam tayo, mga ganyan. Try to take it seriously. Kasi yung mga sinabi ko po kanila na basic, yung kay Coach Randall na 5 steps na basic na yun, yun ang pinaka-basic. If you put that in your at work in your life, you will see wonders of how it can do and how it can transform your life. So kahit doon lang po sa 5 na yun, maintain your cash flow, eliminate debt, set up an emergency fund, have a life insurance, and start investing your money. Yung 5 lang po, tonight, matapos po lahat na ito, think about those 5. Think about those 5 po. And then I'll tell you, and we can talk. You can contact me after a year, after 2 years. You can contact me and tell me what happened to your life after you have applied those 5 principles. Yun lang po talaga kasi ang daming pwede natin gawin complicated dyan, but the most basic one are those 5. So, Coach Randall 5 steps, apply mo yon, and then contact me po sa Facebook after 5 years. I would love to hear what happened to you after 1 year or so that you applied those basic principles. Maraming salamat po and God bless us all. Keep safe and stay safe po. Maraming salamat Sir John for having me again.
Thank you. Sir, thank you so much talaga. So always remember the acronym MONEY, okay?
Yes.
Really, our viewers are really, I think they are really impacted by your keynotes, your presentation. I'm really thankful and grateful kasi I just realized that we did really this 2-day online seminar na wow, it complement each other. Really, I'm really afraid as well to invite these speakers because at the beginning, people might think I will be inviting them for MLM and I will say power. Pero, really an informative session po. Okay, so thank you, Sir Ben. And really, Sir Ben is very humble actually. And I just met him once, okay, in a negosyo forum, and we sat down together during the lunch time. And when I asked him and invited him, he said yes. It's very, very fast without thinking twice. So thank you so much, Sir Ben. Later, please come back for your closing and parting message so that you can greet your family. I don't know really how to compensate all these great speakers. Thank you. And for those that